All right, bam, there we go. We're live. And so we were talking about moments coming up as an athlete when like everybody has that moment where you realize that there's just a different level of athlete than where you are. It's like, oh, this is a different breed of human. I can remember the first time I had that because I was a pretty good athlete. Right? Like I was a 4'6" lasered 40 guy, 6'6", 60, 30 plus inch vertical. So like I was not a slouch athlete by any stretch of the imagination. But I can remember playing against a kid named Ross Cockrell, who's still in the NFL now as a DB. He went to our biggest rival, Charlotte Latin. And like I was out on the wing on like a punt return. I don't even know why I was there, but on punt return, they're like, hey, sir, like we need you to go over. You're going to guard this guy on a punt return, just like get in his way and slow him down. And yo, as soon as they snap the ball and this guy takes off, I was like, oh shit. Like there's literally nothing I can do. Nothing. I'm like, he is so much faster. He is so much quicker. It's like off the line, he's gone. And I get back to the sideline and I'm like, coach, there's there's nothing I can do. This is not an effort problem. This is not a technique problem. This is not a form problem. He is a 10 times better athlete than I am problem.
Yeah.
Like there's just nothing I can do to keep up with him. That was the first time I was like, oh my God. Like that's what that looks like. Okay. Noted.
Yeah.
Did you get that in basketball ever? Like, did you ever have one of those wow moments in basketball when you're like, oh, that's just a different level. Like that's the guy that's going to go play in the NBA. Like when I played against Ross, I was like, oh, that's what goes to the NFL. Okay, noted.
Yeah, I think we went, because it's all like different now with AAU, but back when I was in high school, we went to the Adidas one, I think was ABCD camp. And I forget who was there, but it was Derek Character, I think, who went to Louisville, and I think he was with the Lakers for a little bit. And like they were missing a bunch of their guys because they were all on like the circuit, like going to camps and stuff. And just like warming up, like you just see him like just so effortless. Just like I'm pretty sure he must have broken at least 2 backboards. And where you're just like, all right, cool. I'm just gonna, and same thing, right? Like I would jump with most guys, like figuring I'm gonna walk away, at least like having a good chance of blocking it. I was like, if he's in my vicinity, he's got a free lane and I'm not even going to attempt that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But you definitely know, like as an athlete, when you see something, you're just like, I can't even fathom getting to that spot to beat that guy. You know what I mean? You're just like, gosh.
No, that's like that top 1% of the top 1%, right? Because isn't it like 1% of high school athletes play in college? And then you slash off like another 99% of those athletes that actually play professionally.
Oh, the numbers are ridiculous.
And yeah, like I remember having a realization like that in baseball growing up, playing travel ball in the fall, going to a tournament down in Georgia. And like I was a pretty good baseball player, played Division I baseball. At this point, we're probably 14, 15 years old, and we're playing a team down there that was really good. And so like I'm waiting to go on the field. And so we're watching the games in front of us. And one of the teams in front of us is loaded. They're like one of these like national travel teams. So they recruit kids from Florida, California, Texas. They pay for them. They fly them everywhere, blah, blah, blah. And the stands are loaded with pro scouts. When we played, we would have college scouts. Some. We didn't get that many pro scouts. And this kid comes up, center fielder, probably like 6'2", $180, like just really good looking kid, left-handed. It's a wood bat tournament too. And at 14, you don't have many 14-year-old kids with a wood bat that actually are going to threaten hitting a home run. Yo, this dude, first pitch he sees, goes backside about 415, hits it off the roof of the building. And I remember sitting there, I was like, oh my God. And my dad's like, yep. He's like, just so you know, that's why the pro scouts are here. And they leave when you play. Oh, man. Or we had one of those too in high school where Michael Beasley and Ty Lawson came because we would play Oak Hill every year in a home and away. And dude, like in the warm-up layup lines, I remember Beasley coming down 3 steps out of the key, jumps up, grabs the top right corner of the backboard, swings himself around and goes boom. And we had probably 1,000 people in the stadium, like in our gymnasium. Silence. Everyone was like, oh. And the picture in the paper the next day was phenomenal because we had a probably 6'9", 6'10" center. He wasn't very good. He was just big. And the picture is like him turned around like this. And
Oh.
Beasley is literally just like pushing his head down, like just right on top of him. And I was like, oh, bro, you got to get out of the way.
You got to know you're going to end up on a poster at that point. Like, if that's what you're seeing in warm-ups, right? Like,
Yeah.
If he comes, like, I'm getting out of the way. Like, my only chance is if I get a charge. I was not playing basketball anymore at that point, and I was like, this is why I'm no longer in this sport. Oh man. But today we wanted to dive in, have a quick chat. Ryan Patrick sounds like he's got a wild critter over there with him. It sounds like he had like a little mongoose running around in your office there.
My dog comes in and just starts like tapping his feet.
The one that gets me at night is like Oaks will just sit there and just like lick his paw. It's just
God.
And like wakes me up. I'm like, bro, shut up. Like the worst noise ever to get woken up by.
Yeah.
But as I was saying, we want to jump in today, have a quick chat about how to gamify your training. And I think this is a really important topic. It's not one that's discussed if you peruse blogs, Instagrams, and other podcasts. Most people are always talking to you about, well, here are some periodization schemes you can use and different sets and reps and all this, that, or the other. But I think how to actually gamify that process for yourself is so huge and so important in terms of getting your buy-in and just frankly having fun, right? The first question on our bi-weekly feedback form that goes out to all of our training team athletes is like, are you having fun training? Because that's the first thing I want to know. Like, if you're not having fun, then we're not going to get anywhere. This could be the best program ever written, but if you're not having fun, you're not going to put out and it's not going to be enjoyable. So wanted to chat about some different strategies, tactics, things that you can use to gamify your training so that you can actually push harder, get more out of it, and just have a good time doing it and have some fun. So we can just roundtable this one. I have a few things I've jotted down over here that I've used before, had a lot of success with. I have one written down since Ryan McCure couldn't be here. He has one that I've seen him use that I really like as well. But we can roll this over if, do one of you two guys want to lead on this? Do you have anything like jumping off the brain right now that you've used before? Yeah, go for
it. Keiran, go ahead and take it, man.
Same thing. I kind of jotted a couple things down, and a lot of this I got through Silverback and like just being a part of Rebel, because I think there's a lot of cool things that everybody sprinkles in there. I guess like even just thinking about starting a training day, like I really like to throw a bunch of games in the warm up. If you have like a group that you can actually even do like just partner stuff with. One of the easiest ways to, when you get like a team coming in the weight room where they're looking kind of flat, you know, especially now with like football being in preseason stuff, like just taking a med ball, going out to the tennis courts and being like, all right, med ball tennis, or like med ball spike ball, or even just regular old spike ball, like just to like play a game literally in the beginning. I think works really, really well for like just getting the engagement. If you set up certain like agility games, you can get a little like cognitive piece to it, a little problem solving. Even as simple as like, I love knee tag or knee slaps with people. If you have no equipment, no time, and no space, like that gets super fun. It's just like, just being like apes back in the savannah, you know what I mean? Just like messing around with each other, like just loosening it up. So
you got to watch out for the rogue knee slap though that accidentally finds its way into the crotch region. Those are dangerous. You got to stay on your toes.
But yeah, so I kind of like, even just from the get go, if you have like a group or if you're working out with a buddy, like I think that's a really easy way to start the day off right.
Nice, I like it. RP, sure. Ryan Patrick.
I'll jump on that. Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought about this when you told us more from the coaching perspective of how to get the athletes. But, for myself, I think it is very important to kind of detach from some of the seriousness I think sometimes the industry has around warm-ups and positional stuff. Because I know for me, that was a huge deterrent to just getting going in my training, where I was like, I got to do all these like fucking breathing drills and all this stuff, or I'm not going to move right, or my hip's going to blow out. So, not to say that stuff doesn't have value when it's well executed, But you can find, especially like the more you try to dig into this, that this warm up just gets longer and longer. And personally, I just have it. Just for me, it was a lot of inertia to overcome. So, I think just getting back to something that is gamified, that's more fun. Obviously, if you've got a community or it's cooperative in some way, you're gonna have a way easier time putting some of this stuff together. Now, a lot of us train solo. Coaches do. A lot of us have weird schedules. A lot of people are doing the home gym thing now, and I think even having the community inside a Rebel where we know there's something every week. I think all of us have been pretty good about that, of just having that one opportunity each week to really send it, to really test your mettle, see what you've got, and then compare that to how other people past and present have done is just really valuable. It's clearly defined in terms of what we're trying to get. It gives you a leaderboard. You can score points. You get an idea of where you are. And one of the things I especially love about having a leaderboard is you get some context. One, to see where you rank, but two, what's actually possible. When I was telling my team today, like, hey, the reason we have like a 48 kilo kettlebell, no one does anything other than like RDLs and deadlifts with it. It's to make everything else look smaller from a framing perspective so that they will lift heavier weights. They will push their intensity. They realize, oh, that 24 kilo or 53-pound bell it's really, it's only halfway up compared to all the bells we have. So, just creating some context, but, going back to the things we do with athletes, I'm always thinking about, like, for an athlete, our approach is, we want them stronger. We want them to have great stamina, but ultimately, like, I want them to be fast. I mean, we talked about before I don't know if we were recording or not, but just about the elite athletes and how elite they are. I mean, it's a speed game at higher levels. And so, if we can weave that into the warm up and create task, or what you call representative task design, is how can I make these games, somewhat similar to what they're going to see in an event? Does it look like it? Does it feel like it? Are they going to behave in the same way and prep those movement skills? So, kind of to reel it all back in and put a nice, neat bow on it. If you don't have other people with you, then having a community that you can compare, see a leaderboard, understand where you are. And if you have people, then, gamifying this stuff is very simple. I mean, it takes two people to play knee tag or a number of other things that you can weave in there.
Yeah, for sure. I think when I think about gamifying training, I think about the people involved with us here at Rebel and the training team in particular, right? Like, a lot of people that are probably training a little bit more solo, like maybe they are going to a larger gym, but they're doing their own program. They're not in a class, they're not in a group setting, they're in a garage gym, whatever it is. And so when I think about gamifying training, I'm always trying to think about ways in which I can get them competing against themselves within the program as often as possible, right? Like, they've done something, some number has been set. And so now, like, I can organically bring that back in the program and they now have something to beat, right? It's like, the more times I can put you in a position to compete against yourself and you have something you're shooting for and chasing, the better off we can be. I think a really easy example of that right off the bat is the double progression method in accessory work. That makes it so simple. I'm like, hey, you have to choose a weight that you can do in the 10 to 12 rep range, right? 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps. Once you hit 12 reps across the board, whatever the top of that rep range is, you have to increase weight. Like, automatically, I'm putting the athlete in a position of, like, they're competing with themselves every single week. So say week 1, I do 3 sets, I go 12 reps, 11 reps, 10 reps. Well, now I know coming back, okay, I'll go 12 reps on set 1, but, like, I got to beat myself from last week. I've got to get an extra rep on set 2 or an extra rep on set 3. And not only am I now competing against myself, but I get that nice little dopamine kick of, like, I got better. I'm making progress. I get better buy-in. I'm having more fun. So the double progression method is the first thing I really like to use because it just naturally bakes things in so easily. Other things I really like are auto-regulation techniques. So whether we're talking an EDM style where you're getting an estimated daily max, and again, that sets it up so that every single week when you come back, you know what you have to beat, right? It's like, I'm not just giving you, okay, well, we're just going to do this many sets, this many reps at this percentage this week. Because that can get a little bit boring. Does it work? Absolutely. Right? But that can get a little bit boring. Anytime I'm writing a main lift, like a big squat, a bench, or a deadlift, I pretty much am always auto-regulating it in one way or another. So a couple ways you can do that. Estimated daily max is a great way to do it. It's, hey, work up to a top set of 6 today, drop 15%, hit 2 to 4 more sets of 6. Okay. And then we come back the next week and it's like, okay, cool. You're going to do the same thing, but our goal is to hit a higher top set of 6 on your first set, right? So instead of a 7 RPE, now you're at 8 RPE. And then week 3 is a 9, week 4 is going to be a 10. So every single week, your goal is just to hit a higher top set of 6. And then you back off and hit your 2 to 4 sets there. And so it's like you have 2 places where you can actually make progress. I can be hitting a higher total weight on my top lift for the day. So that's an immediate win. But then you're also going to be playing a total volume game in your 2 to 4 sets. Can I beat the total amount of volume I did the previous week? Right? Because now like we're in this situation where it's like not only is intensity going up, but volume is going up as well. And that's why I think sometimes we have people hit these absolutely outrageous PRs after a 12-week training cycle. Because we get them playing this game with themselves, right? Like I know Ian recently posted, he had like a fucking like 100-pound deadlift PR. That was after 12 weeks, right? And like I'm not talking like he deadlifted 200 pounds and then deadlifted 300 pounds. Like homeboy deadlifted like 550, something like that, right? Like so he went from a 450 deadlift, which is incredibly respectable. Especially, I think Ian's a little bit on the. Ian, if you hear this, don't get upset at me for saying this. A little bit on the more aged side of our training team members, right? But like, that's insane. We see people hitting these 50, 60, 70, 80 pound PRs in short periods of time. And I think that's one of the strategies we use. So the estimated daily max is one that I really like. I also like to think of, I have sets, I have reps, and I have load. Again, this is applying primarily to a main lift. With sets, reps, and load, I'm usually going to have a question mark in there somewhere. So maybe I will give you your reps, I'll give you your load, and I'm going to question mark your sets. And I tell you exactly how long you're going to rest. Right? Like you guys saw that in Silverback. It's, hey, you're going to work at 62%. We're going to hit X number of reps. You're going to do it. And you're going to rest a strict 60 to 90 seconds. Hit as many sets as you can. If you reach the 10th set, you're going to stop and take it for as many reps as you can. So we're not here all day. Right? But I'm always going to question mark a set, a rep, or a load. Right? Another way I can do that, which is a brutal phase, but it works really well, is that I'm going to say, hey, you're going to hit 3 sets we're going to start at 80% of your 1 rep max. You're going to do as many reps as you can each set. And then you're going to rest 3 to 5 minutes. If you hit 10 reps on each set, you have to increase weight and bump it the following week, right? Again, I'm not just going to plainly tell somebody, hey, like we're just going to go 5 sets of 5 at this percentage. Like I totally appreciate and understand that programming and the periodization and the scheme that comes with that. But I think that gets really, really boring for the athlete. Like, where are they competing with themselves? Where are they able to adjust their output and their effort based on the day? Right? Because I want to continue to set up those situations where week by week, I'm always being able to look back and have a number I'm going to try to beat today. The other place I really like, and this is one from Ryan the Cure, is there's a circular nature to programming, this mirror effect. And he was the first person that I saw do this, and I really liked it, and I've stolen it. So I'm going to give him credit because he's not here to talk about it himself. But Ryan will do something where he'll go, okay, well, on like week 2 of a program of a 4-week cycle, on week 2, he'll be like, all right, you're going to have 3 sets of 8 on like a squat or something like that, for example, right? And you're trying to work up to the heaviest load that you can, essentially. He'll come back on week 4 and say, okay, you're going to hit you're going to use the top set, like the heaviest weight that you achieved on week 2. You're going to use that again on week 4. On set 1, you're just going to hit 4 reps. On set 2, you're going to take it for as many as you can. And again, now I'm playing the psychological game of, I'm like, okay, well, I know this is really heavy for 8 on week 2, but I've done it for 8 before. So I want to beat that number. right? And it's like the first set's just kind of warming up and feeling it out. 4 reps is not going to smoke you if you've done it for 8 before. But set 2 is where you can go in a full send, and it's like, all right, well, I got to fucking beat 8, right? And then it's like you surprise yourself and you're like hit 14, and you're like, damn, that's awesome. Like I remember how hard this was on week 2. And so it's just those little nuances in programming are the things that I think make such huge differences for people and the outcomes they can get and how rapidly we can achieve those outcomes. It's one of the reasons why I think we're really successful with our people and how we do things. I don't know if you guys want to piggyback on any of those examples or talk more about them. Those are like the big ones in my mind that I use a lot. And like any program I write, I'm trying to think about how to incorporate those elements.
Yeah, for sure. I'll jump in. I mean, I think one of the things you addressed is, with this, there's a higher degree of choice. There's not just do a max weight or, max out on everything, which I think historically for anybody who's been in the weight room, that's been the benchmark, is just do more max weight. Well, you only get so many attempts, and the stronger you get, the fewer or the less frequent you can actually pull that off. So you have to have something that is going to look at. Now, we use this like holistic total package model. So there are a number of ways that we can assess work capacity. We can gamify stamina with all the different metcons. At my gym, for example, we have a few things we've pulled like from Silverback and other programs over the years that they're just known benchmarks. They're tough workouts. It's kind of like CrossFit has their WODs, their Murph brand, and all that stuff. Just things that are more have a little more utility for the goals that our clients have, and they know that, and they know what is the good score. They know ways to track and measure. Some of them are time based, where there are restrictions, and they have to be able to have a certain level of output in a set time. Could be like your 30-30 type stuff, or even just like a 12-minute block of density work. And within that, you have to have the discipline as a trainee to maintain technique and make sure that, you're not just getting it done, but you're getting it done in the same manner. But I wanted to kind of shift and talk about, where I think some of the utility of tracking these things too is, we use a lot of velocity-based training. And there's some instant feedback on that if you've got the right competitive drive, is going to change how you lift forever. Because I have never lifted with as much intensity and intention as when I have a velocity tracker on the bar. Because if I don't hear that ding and I know I didn't hit that rep, or it calls out the number on the speaker and it's too low, you better be damn sure that the next rep I'm giving it everything I got, and I want to see it get back above that threshold. So then that's a way to get that instant feedback of, did I mail it in this rep? Did I really give it my all? We use a Jaku as well, which if you're listening and you're not familiar, it's essentially a bracelet with a Bluetooth connection to an iPad or a phone, and you set the distance, and then once you start moving, it records the timer, and the first disruption across the screen, it'll actually stop it. So it's fairly accurate. Sometimes if the distance is too long, it kind of breaks down. But that's a great way to look at your runs, is you're starting to, if you're doing sprints or doing more athletic based things, you can even set it up for like a 5-10-5, all kinds of stuff. So it's nice to have a way to get this feedback and to try to, manipulate that with different protocols over the course of a program. So just kind of back to your point, James, I think it's, there are ways to assess and track that I think just lend themselves to gamifying other than just following the script. Because the reality is, like, the periodization schemes, most of the books talk about building these elite athletes and stuff like that. And they're on 4-year or perennial calendars where, they have a long-term goal that's so far out. Your average trainee is going to be able to make so much progress because they're not near the boundaries of what is possible for their physiology. So you see these wild increases where, like, our guy Ian, 550 it's amazing. That's an amazing deadlift. But when you look at like what a world record deadlift is, you know what I mean? There's just so much. And I think that's why people can do this in multiple domains at once. You can see your capacity get better and track that with certain KPIs. You can look at your strength stuff, or your, strength conditioning, your rep max type stuff. And you can also do it within the domain of athleticism with speed. So just abundant opportunities to compete at every level.
I was gonna say the little ding thing that you talked about is like such a good point, because that ding is so infuriating. Like all I'm thinking of is
Mm,
like, this fucking computer is just like calling me soft right now. So like, oh, quit being so
hmm
soft, bro. Why can't you move it faster? You're not hitting your velocities. Soft. All I hear in my head when that thing goes off, I'm like, soft. You're so soft. I'm like, ah.
The worst is when you know that you're still hitting your velocity, but you have the wrong setting. So you're going to do the whole set anyway, and you could see the speed is good enough, but it's like,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
fuck you, man, I got it.
That is so true.
I think the one thing that you guys were talking about, and I totally agree with, and I think one of the best parts about Rebel is all the gamifying that we can like blend into the program to get those, not just for the fun of it, but also because it leads to such high outputs where like gamifying it or making it competitive, tracking all those metrics, it's just like cognitively you shut off and then you just start doing, right? And then you can, most people are pretty surprised when like on those question mark sets or like when they come back and retest and stuff. But the one thing that you said, just because a lot of the, like for the training team, for example, the burn and the build, we're getting a lot more busy professionals, like people who probably wouldn't get the most out of like a question mark set. Some people definitely would, right?
Yeah.
But like just regular moms and dads and people just trying to get it in before work. So, but the one thing you did say about Ryan's thing with the mirroring, I actually borrowed Lance's programming that he uses with his Gen Pop people that I think is genius.
He does the same thing, which is really good.
And
Yeah, that's I know what you're talking
and he'll
about.
use more like the 3-week blocks, and then you'll kind of like build, and then you'll actually have a chance to go back towards the end of the program, and you're actually repeating the same set and rep scheme, and now it's your chance to look back a few weeks ago, and you're crushing those numbers. So it's just like an automatic win, or it's just like you got to show up and you're like, listen, it's been 6 weeks, I better be beating my numbers now, So I think that's genius, and it works. It's been working really well with a lot of the training team members. So for like the quote unquote like Gen Pop approach, like that mirror is a really good way to attack that.
Yeah, I think the mirror is beautiful. The mirror is so powerful. I don't remember the specifics. I have it written down. I remember like talking to Lance about how he does it, and I was like, oh, this makes so much sense, because yeah, it's like whatever you see for that first 3-week chunk, you end up seeing again at the back end when you're on probably like week 9 or 10, somewhere in there. You're seeing that same set and rep scheme. You're like, oh man, I'm like moving way more weight now. I've gotten so much better. And I think like being able to put those wins in the program for people, because I understand that there are gonna be a lot of hardos in this training and conditioning realm. We're like, oh, just show up, do the same shit every day, do it for 6 months. You don't need to see PRs. And I'm like, fuck off, dude. Like, if I'm not seeing progress like every few weeks, I lose interest. Our people are gonna be the same way, right? Like, we're training former athletes, high school athletes, college athletes, people that love to train and get after it. Maybe they are super busy. They're parents now. They have a job, so they don't have as much time. And then they're in build or burn. Or maybe they still have the ability to spend 60 to 90 minutes training. And then they're in one of our other programs like Total Package, Swole, Field Demon, etc. Right? But at the end of the day, I think everybody would fall in a similar boat. Like, if you can see wins more frequently, you're going to be more excited and have more fun training, and you're going to work harder. Like, this idea that I have to go 4 months before seeing any progress is just bananas. It makes no sense. And again, it just comes back to this idea. It's just like some people get so married to like super training and science and practice and these different periodization models. And I'm like, bro, the periodization models for people like Ryan Patrick already said, like they're thinking 4 years down the road and they show up at the Olympics, right? Like, we're training real normal human beings that have a life and that want to see wins more often. And I can totally get that. And I think that's one of the things that we strive to do a really good job of and do a good job of.
Yeah, I have to, we're constantly having this conversation, from a business standpoint. The brick and mortar facility that I run is, a couple of years ago, we stepped out of the fat loss space, and it was a very purposeful decision by me, because a lot of those clients come in, not that it's wrong, not that you shouldn't want to lose fat and all that, but the training and the progress and even the nutrition that helped them feel better and perform better was very punitive, and it felt like just a means to an end for them. And all the while they're making great progress in the gym and they're getting stronger. And I'm like, this is where the gold is, people. This is what it's about. Where you get in 6 weeks, like, what are you going to do after you lose the fat? Like, we've got so much time to play. Like, are we going to talk about getting a 300-pound deadlift? Are we going to get a 4 mile and 10-minute Airdyne ride? There's just, I think, and I might be, I think I'm very similar to you guys, but if I'm not training and there's not some element of competition, it's just recreation or for health, that's not motivating to me at all. It's just not. Like, I lose interest so fast and I kind of dwindle. So, I mean, keeping checks on myself to make sure I've got a coach who's pushing me and giving me clearly defined tasks and objectives at least gives me something to aim towards. But I have to have that element of progress. I have to have that element of pushing myself, of seeing what's possible, just, kind of leaning into the edge a little bit and testing the waters. But, without that, it's just, I don't know, it's a sinking ship, downward spiral for me.
You need supersets of front squats and front rack reverse lunges to really keep your interest peaked.
I just get so amped up around people.
So I was going to circle back. We'd mentioned Metcons. One thing I didn't talk about, like, Metcons is another really awesome place where you can play with this and you have a lot of room to play. So I love the mirror effect in Metcons as well. We're like on our tactical track, where you're going to hit more big lifts followed by Metcons. So you're not really getting classical accessories. You're doing way more of, you're going to hit a press and a squat, and then you're going to hit a Metcon, right? And so what I really like to do in those Metcons is to like wave them. And so you'll see the same Metcon for say 2 weeks. And then I bring in new Metcons for another 2 weeks. And then we go back to where you were, hit those other ones for another 2 weeks. And so you have an opportunity now to beat what you did previously and to see the fact that like your generalized work capacity has improved. And so another thing on Metcons that's really good is sometimes people want to progress those too much too fast. And I think it's really fun telling people, like, once they get a feel for the pacing of it and they understand what their pace is, to just give them really small overreaches to say, hey, like, we can use a really simple example. Like, maybe you do an 8-minute AMRAP, whatever it is, right? And then maybe it's like, okay, well, let's see if we can go to 8 minutes and 30 seconds or 8 minutes and 45 seconds or 9 minutes. Can you keep your best 8-minute pace and survive for an extra 30 seconds, 45 seconds, or 60 seconds? Like, that's another great way to do this. Like, you're just figuring out ways to play a game with yourself. Like, psychologically, like, this is so important. You got to do it. Otherwise, like you said, Ryan, like, you just show up and you just go through the motions and it's like, what's the point? Why am I even here? Who cares? I'm the same way. Like, I have to have that game going on at all times. And it's fun when you're playing that game with yourself, but then you're playing that game with hundreds of other people. And it's so great when you like see that actually kick in and people like, they take off, and it's so much fun to watch.
I think the back end with the conditioning, like you were saying, with like the Metcons and stuff, is a really, really good place to kind of cook in some of that, because it's so easy, right? Like, it's just like, all right, you got 12 minutes last week. You did, 3 rounds. Give me 3 rounds and then get back on the bike and just start pedaling just so we got to win this week, right? Or the other thing I really like is like you start trying to strategize a little bit more. Week 1's always kind of daunting because it's just like you're going in blind. But then like week 2 and 3, like I'll be with a client and we're just like, all right, we're doing the 10-minute, we're doing the, or whatever on the Airdyne bike. Like last week you got this. So if we break that up into 4 quarters, this 2.5 minute split, we need to be at 63 RPM. Then we get, and now you're just like, all right, I can make it to the first quarter. Let's get to the second quarter. And then you just like start those small wins, to your point, right? Like circling back around takes you so much further just week to week.
Yeah, it's such a mental challenge too. And I always feel like I know I'm in the right place when I'm thinking about that pacing, like you're talking about, Keiran. I'm like, okay, I got to hold, 64 RPMs. And then as I'm going, it's like, okay, 10%. Now I'm a quarter through. Can I hold this pace for, 3 more quarters? And, I'm just kind of like, just staying like right in that moment of just trying to like keep the pace, hold the pace. Am I breathing too fast? Can I back it off and still hold? It's just, I want to see that progress. I want to, bust through. So It's like racing a little shadow in the Mario Kart almost. I just gotta make one turn a little
That's
bit
a
better.
great analogy. That's really what we're talking about here. We're just trying to build your Mario Kart shadow for you in programming. We can end on that. I think that's a perfect way to transition and wrap this bad boy up, right? Like, your goal is to find as many opportunities in training as you can to create the Mario Kart shadow for yourself. So you're always chasing. I love it. I don't have anything else I can say. That's a great.
Absolutely.
I'm so glad we got there.
Yeah.
Man, that's good. Excellent. All right, folks. Thank you for tuning in. We hope this was helpful, educational. Hopefully you have some actual things you can go and use now in your programming, so you're not just going through the motions, because that's the worst. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week.
Cool. Thanks, guys.